Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Dougy. Well, we got a fair amount to go over here today. Lots of typical Canadian news, a little bit of extra stuff kind of going on, especially with the air above where the G7 is going to take place. A lot of chaos, but kind of the main story is Trump. Yippers, he just said he's doubling the steel tariffs to 50%. All of this right after Dougy had a trade mission down in the U.S. talking about tariffs and trade. And, yeah, well, let's just roll with it because you can't make this stuff up.
Can never be forgotten. The last administration granted tens of thousands of job-killing tariff exemptions to your foreign competitors. So they were afraid to take down the tariffs that I imposed because it was so good for our country, so much money. But what they did do, think of this, they gave exemptions and they were so broad and so deep, and I guess you saw that, but the exemptions that they gave allowed foreign competitors to come in and steal our industry, steal our jobs, and bring them back home and bring them home by the boatload. Crippling imports of foreign steel skyrocketed over the last 4 years like you have never seen before by over 30%. That's an incredible, crazy number. And imports of steel and rebar from Mexico exploded by more than 1,000%. We were getting our steel from Mexico. We were getting our steel from Canada. We were getting our steel from every place, but right here, it was then that we announced the crown jewel of our steel industry, U.S. Steel, was being sold into foreign hands with no protections for our great steel workers. And I said, there's no way we're going to let that happen. When I was watching over you, you don't even know it, I was watching over you. I tell you, best people. You're the best people. You built this country. You know, you people built this country. You people and others like you built this country. By the time I came into office, many feared that the Mon Valley would lose up to 3,000 steel jobs, that U.S. Steel would close, and it was a fixture of the Pittsburgh skyline. It may never live for another week. We had times we thought we were going to live. You weren't living for another week. But I promised the people of Western Pennsylvania that I would never, ever let that happen. And as president, I kept that promise. Boy, did I keep that promise. So soon after initially taking office, I imposed powerful 25% tariffs on all foreign steel and ended each and every one of the Biden exceptions and exclusions. And today I have a major announcement. And are you ready to hear this? This is on behalf of Scott, Secretary of Treasury, Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce, and all of the great geniuses and people we have working, and they are smart, but I don't think you'd be a good steel worker, Scott. I'm sorry. We're going to have to put a little more muscle content into that guy. But he's great. He's great at what he does. We are going to be imposing a 25% increase. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America, which will even further secure the steel industry in the United States. Nobody's going to get around that. So we're bringing it up from 25%. We're doubling it to 50%. And that's a loophole. And by the way, I have to tell you, I believe that this group of people that just made this investments right now are very happy, because that means that nobody's going to be able to steal your industry. It's at 25%, they can sort of get over that fence. At 50%, they can no longer get over the fence. So congratulations to everybody and to you for making a great deal. You just made a better deal, right?
Boom. Now, Dougy just got back today. And it would be, let's see here. That would be 4 hours before Trump made this announcement, Dougy did this presser. And now the whole idea of this presser was supposed to be that Premier Doug Ford spoke to reporters after meeting with the Canada-US Trade Council. Now, most of this was all about the battles he's having with a few, and I mean it's a few, loud, but few, indigenous nations, chiefs, who are battling his economic plan. His bill is trying to take power, and it's just going to gift all of his. He's a liberal. It's just going to. He's not going to have a fair, open system in order to allow companies to come in and actually, those who work the hardest, that make a good product and aren't afraid to rake the people over the coals. So we'll do it for a cheaper dollar. The ability, that's all going to go to his buddies, just like the federal Liberal Party does. And a lot of these chiefs are onto this scam. And then there's those that are on the payroll. So take it for what you want. Let me know how you feel in the comments, but let's just hear Dougie's presser here. It was mostly about the Indigenous fight, very little about the actual UN or US-Canada Trade Council.
All right, from the White House to Queen's Park, Doug Ford is speaking with reporters after meeting with the Canada-US Trade Council now. Let's listen in to that.
To labor, everyone combined. So I'll just pass it over to you there for a minute, Catherine.
Thank you very much.
You can step up to the mic.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, thank you. Full discussion around the table, and it was very, very productive. It gives me a lot of ammunition to go to our meeting in Saskatchewan, discuss opportunities with our fellow premiers and our prime minister. It's going to be a very, very productive meeting. We'll be heading over there on Sunday and having a good conversation, how we can make sure that we stay strong, we stay resilient. We're a very strong country, and we're going to get through this. We're going to get through it, and we're going to be stronger at the other end. And I just appreciate everyone coming together today. So we'll open it up to questions.
Premier, do you think now, everybody just starts questioning about the Premier meeting and blah, blah, blah. And of course, like I was saying, a lot of the battles with the Indigenous, certain chiefs. Let's just fast forward it, because really there was just a lot of verbal diarrhea in here. And this is really the only comment that he had that had made any sense about the meeting.
From Mr. Patterson or
yeah, sure.
I'm wondering what the state of play is, or what you understand the state of play to be since Mr. Carney's visit to Washington.
Yeah.
And you had said before that you believed a deal was possible within a month.
I think a couple months, but again, let me qualify that. Great question. President Trump, he can change the game on an hour's notice. You watch him on TV, it's one day this, one day that. But I'm going to pass it over to David. He's boots on the ground.
The end
He's communicating.
And now,
and I can.
Trump, this has been discussed with that trade commission. Lutnick, you heard him say the names. I specifically made sure that I played a long enough segment that you heard that he was talking about Canada and Mexico. And he even named all of the same people who are involved in the Trade Council. They knew when they sat down what was coming. And they didn't fill in Dougy about it. Now, if you're a new subscriber, I urge you, please tune into previous episodes. I've literally exposed this guy for who he is for months. He's a liberal dressed in sheep's clothing. It's horrible. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that Lutnick and them don't like him. And I've already shown, and I warned first. I warned about the auto sector. I warned about the electricity sales. All the things I've warned about have come to fruition, mostly because of his big mouth and the liberals like Carney and him spreading fear, hate, and division. And when you start doing that, and you really create a tension between not necessarily the administrations, but the cultures, the actual United States, and the Americans right now are in shock. They cannot believe that Canadians are a-holes. and I've mentioned this again in previous episodes, I get a lot of Americans on different social media outfits, like especially my TikTok. I've got a lot of viewers. Some of my videos have done like 90-some thousand, 100,000 views. I get a lot of comments about the Americans or the Canadians out east. The Eastern Americans quit coming up. They say that they're just, Canadians are so spiteful and hateful and stupid. Like, what is all of this, like, hate America and they're the ignorance, flashing fingers, like literally cutting them off in traffic, and why would you do that? Anyways, so there you go. I mean, Dougie's gonna eat his dish cold, because that's the way the States is going to treat him, especially after threatening to cut the electricity off. That was the final straw. Now there's 9 commissioned nuclear plants. This all happened in the last 3 weeks. 3 of them are already being surveyed, and they're getting ready to start pouring concrete. Those are all going to be tied in to the grids that take and purchase energy from Ontario. The other 3 go further east, and the other 3 go a little bit to the west. They're going to completely cut off buying electricity from Canada. Now, they never had their eyes necessarily focused on us like they do now. And you can thank Dougie for all of that, especially in Ontario, because your province is going to get nailed. The steel tariffs, like all of it, because of his ignorance. And he used it for election purposes, just like Carney did. And now this works to Trump's advantage, because it's creating jobs. It shows weakness. These people are just, go ahead, elbows up, everybody. You just destroyed Eastern Canada. And that's fine to the people out west, because they've had enough and they want out. And they're tired of paying your bills. So it is what it is. I'm sorry to have to say it. Now we're going to move on. There's major delays and cancellations at the Vancouver airport after the closure of a northern runway.
Yes, good evening, Chris. Here at YVR, there's 2 main runways, and they run parallel with each other. Well, right now, the north runway is undergoing revitalization, which includes a full repaving. And that work is happening behind me right now. But it's supposed to be happening overnight. But last night, there was a hiccup, and now the north runway has been closed all day. This runway should have planes landing on it. Instead, it's the middle of the day and workers are leveling fresh asphalt, causing serious problems at YVR.
We're all split up now. It's just a disaster.
YVR's north runway is currently undergoing a 6-month modernization, including a complete resurfacing.
What makes this program unique is that YVR will upgrade the runway at night, while it remains fully operational during the day.
A plan that sounds good in theory.
Unfortunately, last night at about 12:30, the concrete batch plant on Mitchell Island that supplies us asphalt had an electrical failure. So unfortunately, we had to make the decision to not reopen the runway at 7 a.m.
YVR's north runway typically handles 400 flights daily. Its closure leaves the south runway handling the entire flight schedule.
The message to passengers, first off, is sincere apologies for today and the inconvenience they're facing.
Yeah, and all that green energy that fails.
Nav Canada says they had to implement a traffic management initiative to maintain a safe flow of aircraft. By mid-afternoon, there were more than 150 delayed flights and 25 cancellations.
Flights delayed.
Craziness. Moving on. This is talking about the no-fly zones around Calgary and Kananaskis during the G7 summit. This is actually kind of funny because I can understand private planes and everything, but the whole like corporate WestJet and all the rest of them kind of doesn't make much sense. But
shooting is an extreme measure, but yeah, we have the capability to take them down.
Security for the 2025 G7 summit in Kananaskis is ramping up, and that includes the skies above Calgary. The RCMP is putting in new airspace restrictions to not only protect some of the world's most powerful leaders, but also the public and security personnel.
It's also ensuring the safety of our own aircraft, our own blue assets that are in the air. If we have just the various people flying drones at altitudes and unchecked, that could pose a grave risk to our own assets, which are providing that safety and security coverage over the site.
No-fly zones for all manned aircraft and personal drones will be in place 30 nautical miles around Kananaskis and 20 nautical miles around YYC Calgary International Airport, including Springbank Airport from 6 a.m. on June 14th to 11:59 p.m. on June 17th. If someone is flying in the restricted areas,
we do have measures in where we can take them down through various means. I'm not at liberty to say exactly what they are, but shooting is an extreme measure, but yeah, we have the capability to take them down.
Yeah, sure.
He adds that recreational pilots caught flying planes or drones in the no-fly zone could be hit with high fines and even lose their pilot's license.
Yeah. Anyways, and now this is kind of an update on what happened in Pickering.
Hi, Bakari and Lena. We're getting some new details today of what was behind this tragic homicide. We're learning that a 14-year-old teenage boy was arrested last night, and he is being charged with first-degree murder. Now, his identity can't be released under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, but police do say he is a local, that he is a resident of Pickering. He made a brief appearance in court today, but the big question police still have is, what is the motive behind this? Why the random attack? They still believe this was something unprovoked at this time. Police still haven't been able to find anything that connects the victim to the suspect prior to the attack. Now, the identity of the victim is still not being released at this time, but neighbors tell us it was an older lady in her 80s. She was a retired kindergarten teacher. It was around 3 yesterday afternoon when she was gardening outside her home on Lynn Heights Drive, a quiet neighborhood in Pickering. She was approached by a stranger and stabbed multiple times. She was rushed to the hospital where she unfortunately died of her injuries. That suspect then ran away eastbound, and the description police first gave was that it was a male, brown. He was wearing a long trench coat, and then it was all hands on deck for the manhunt to try to bring the suspect in. Durham Regional Police called in help from Toronto and nearby jurisdictions. They called in specialty teams. They had K9 units, drones searching this heavily wooded area. And then an emergency alert went out around 5:45 to people across the GTA, telling folks to shelter in place, especially those in the area. The city of Pickering also made the decision to shut down public facilities for the night and all community programming. And then it was around 8:30 at night when police arrested the suspect. And then an hour later, they told us that it was a teenage boy. Here's more from Durham Regional Police on why they took those steps to issue the shelter-in-place alert and shut down public facilities.
So when it comes down to the emergency alert, we have to make sure that the information we have is accurate. We have to make sure it's reliable information, and we have to make sure that the alert is warranted. And all of that takes a period of time to be able to piece together what happened. As you can imagine, when this initially happened, we had very little information to go on. So we take emergency alerts very seriously. We understand the impact that they have on our community. We understand that the fear that they may cause, so we don't release them lightly. And part of that is to determine what is actually factual before we release that information. And then there is a process where we communicate with the OPP, who in turn releases that alert.
And surveillance video has been very helpful to police in this investigation. They told us that part of the attack was caught on camera, which is why they were able to get that suspect description. And since then, we've also been sent in video from different neighbors of the suspect who was in the area, possibly a few days before the attack. Durham police do tell us that is something they are looking to. But of course, anyone with additional video or information on this case is being asked to contact police.
All right, Sija Lou reporting
Wild.
live.
Absolutely wild. And now I won't post his name either. I'm bound by at least that journalistic integrity to follow the rules that way. But his identity is already known. His face is already plastered all over social media. This is just, it's unbelievable. It really is. I hope that we hear a lot more facts about it, and I hope I hope the police quit trying to protect what's destroying our nation through the globalist push that's been taken on by the Liberals to help demolish our country, because all the police they all backed up the Conservatives. They all endorse the Conservatives. They're bound by their oath, so they can't necessarily go right out on the air and be like, rah, 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 this, Liberal, blah, 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 this, Conservative. But if they at least just start exposing the reality of what's going on in Canada by releasing a lot more details instead of withholding and protecting it for the government, that would be a huge step to finally removing this fascist government we've got in power today. Like, I'm still in shock. Like, Parliament, I can't even watch it. It's just, I do because it's my job to get the news out to you guys, but it's my guts turn, because it's the same thing that's been going on for the last 9 years. It's just an absolute embarrassment to a so-called country. Now, moving right along, this guy in Vancouver, Lord have mercy.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with 3 violent crimes committed in a matter of minutes. The crime spree took place in an office building in Oak Ridge. One of the victims, a 14-year-old girl, sexually assaulted in a public washroom at knife point. The suspect arrested has a troubling history of being a danger to society. CTV's Yasmin Gandam is following this in the Breaking News Center. Yasmin, this was part of a crime spree that included a robbery.
That's right, Mijung. The crime spree also included a bank robbery, as you said, and the assault of a second woman who escaped serious harm Wednesday afternoon. And as you mentioned, the suspect has a lengthy criminal history, including previous sexual assault convictions. At the time, the VPD said he posed a significant risk to the public. A 58-year-old woman was leaving a medical appointment at West 41st and Cambie Street when she was grabbed in the hallway and assaulted by a stranger. She managed to get away, but minutes later, a 14-year-old girl who was using a public bathroom in the same building was sexually assaulted and forcibly confined by the same stranger who was armed with a knife. He managed to escape and entered a bank on the ground floor of the same office and allegedly committed a robbery. Vancouver police have now arrested 62-year-old John Frederick Field from Surrey, who has a criminal history.
What is it with people in masks? It's like the giveaway nowadays. If you see somebody wearing a mask, you just go, uh-oh. What's going to happen now?
He's a repeat offender. He's a high-risk offender. And again, this is someone who has been convicted of a crime. He's served time. He's released into custody, or back into the community, and police don't have control of that, as you know. So we understand.
That was well worded. You can thank the judges, and you can thank the Liberal government for passing the rules that the judges have to follow.
There is public frustration with this, and we share that frustration.
Field is now facing 5 charges, including sexual assault against a person under 16. He remains in custody, and there are questions tonight as to why a violent offender was let out in the first place. Mijung?
Thanks for this update, Yes.
Just scary times. Now, this is kind of wild. This is down in the States.
The drier air is moving in, the northwest flow is pushing our way, and we'll see some sunshine breaking through tomorrow, and it'll be a really nice day with comfortable temperatures. But I want you to look at this flow right here coming out of the north and west. Yes, that's great news because we're going to have the drier air, the sunshine, and the slightly lower temperatures. But that same northwest flow is going to pick up this. There is a wildfire up in Manitoba in Canada. It is spreading smoke down through parts of Chicago into St. Louis, that leading edge now moving into parts of Tennessee. Well, that same northwest flow is going to push some of that smoke into our area. So tomorrow, while we're out enjoying the sunshine, I just want you to know that it's going to be filtering through some of that smoke, and there might be a hazy look in the sky as it filters through some of that particulate matter. As of right now, the air quality forecast for tomorrow is code yellow for particulate matter, and that's just below the level of where if it got up to code orange, then it would be an air quality alert. So we're not quite at that level, but I just want you to be aware when you're out and about, not only on Saturday but also on Sunday, that the sunshine may be filtering through some of that haze there because of the smoke from Canada.
Now here in Saskatchewan today, we had a cold front kind of clash, and the second that it kind of hit and the rain started to get like the two parts, right, and it drew the upper atmosphere down, and it was kind of hazy all day, but it was way up high, and the second that cold front hit and dropped, that atmospheric pressure dropped, and when that smoke came down, it's been horrible here all day. My throat's actually sore, my eyes are sore, the smoke is just thick. Everywhere you go, it smells like you can smell the campfire kind of smell. I mean, if you're ever gonna smoke any meat, just go hang it outside right now, and yeah, you got a nice cold smoke going on. Anyways, this was an interesting, like I said, there's a lot of stuff going in the States. I'm gonna push the line on my algorithms, and this is my job. This is why I started the channel, and I've been wanting to talk about this for like 3 months here, and I've been kind of holding off. I was hoping that I could gain a lot more viewers, so make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because the more subscribers, the more views, and the more shares I get, the less likely I am to be nailed by these algorithms, which happens to me. And like I said, I follow them all the time, and I've tested it even at the beginning, and I could watch certain things I would say, and all of a sudden I would just drop right now on my views, and then I'd try and get away from that, and it would take me a couple episodes to clear, and then I'd start to skyrocket again. But the second I actually try to tell you the real news, what's really going on crucial things, that's where the suppression, the censorship really kicks in. So I'm going to push the line a little bit today. Now, I do have a membership program started. Once I get a few members on there, I am going to start doing serious episodes on stuff that I can't talk about on this side, the free channel. I will always do the free end of it. I'm still going to push the limit of what I can do and say, but I will be making other videos exposing a lot more of what YouTube and the Canadian government doesn't want me to say. But once I have a membership, as long as it's not public and it's a membership, the whole series of censorship laws, there's a big separation. So there's still a limit on what I can say, but for the most part, it frees up a lot. And stuff like what I'm going to show you right now, I'll be able to actually say the words out loud and put it in my title, etc. So yeah, listen carefully. This is kind of just a quick analysis of what's happened in the last few months that nobody's talking about, especially here in Canada.
Oh boy, I've been dying to talk about this. And since the Senate blew the doors off the COVID vaccine reality, let's go.
We are looking at a winter of severe illness and death for unvaccinated.
When you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological and they get vaccinated.
You have the option to not get vaccinated if you want, but then you can't go out in public.
Remember when you were forced to take a vaccine or lose your job? Oh, we're not forcing you. You just can't go to work if you don't get it. No one's forcing you to get the vaccine. You just can't go to any restaurant if you don't have proof of it. A lot of people had to put food on the table, so they got vaccinated. But the concern so many people had that they were being called conspiracy theorists for believing are strangely coming out that some of them might actually have been true.
Today's hearing is the corruption of science and federal health agencies, how health officials downplayed and hid myocarditis and other adverse events associated with the COVID-19 vaccines.
After 4 years of kabuki theater, creating second-class citizens, public ridicule campaigns, promises of death if you didn't take it, doctors losing their licenses, and anyone with a single independent thought watching cardiac issues spike in otherwise helping people, we had a moment of truth. Only now is the same vaccine that so many people were mandated to take against their will because they were worried about a myriad of potential health concerns. Only now, thanks to RFK, is that vaccine required to list the potential risk of myocarditis, swelling of the heart.
Wow,
on their
about
warning
time.
label of potential side effect. After years, now the very concerns of people like me and millions others had that we're called conspiracy theorists for are now mandated to be on the warning label of that very vaccine. Dr. Jordan Vaughn told this to the Senate.
This spring of 2021, a clear safety signal emerged. Myocarditis in young males linked to mRNA vaccines. The Department of Defense confirmed cases of rare heart inflammation, and peer-reviewed studies later detected circulating spike protein in post-vaccine myocarditis cases. Autopsy findings have confirmed fatal vaccine-induced myocarditis.
And what's worse, as we're finding out now, while they were forcing it into people's arms, it turns out they were aware of these risks the whole time. And now we find out that they kept it from us.
The CDC's National Center of Immunization and Respiratory Disease sent an email to state and local health departments around the country entitled, quote, monitoring reports of myocarditis, end quote.
Look, folks, honestly, I was not initially opposed to getting the vaccine. I never got it, thankfully, but I had to fight hard not to. And I was only discouraged not to because nobody would answer my questions at the time. I remember I had already had COVID and I was fine. I had my annual physical. So I go into my doctor's office and they asked me, they're like, hey, Carl, you vaccinated? I said, no. They told me they could no longer see me as a patient unless I got it right then and there. They already had it out on the table and everything. But then refused to answer any questions about any concerns that I had. So I just walked out. I went to a new doctor and they asked me the same question. I said no. They also refused to answer any of my questions. You just need to get it. It's it's safe. It's going to keep you from getting COVID and all this other stuff. That was a lie and had long been debunked. Even Fauci later conceded that the vax never stopped you from actually contracting COVID. Or spreading it. My second doctor tried to persuade me that it would prevent me from getting sick if I did get COVID. And again, I said, hey, look, I've already had COVID. What about my natural immunities? He told me there are no natural immunities. Jesus. Even though we now know that natural immunities are better than the vaccine immunities and don't wane as fast as the vaccine immunities. So why did they push so hard? Well, we have also come to find out that from that hearing the other day that doctors were being given financial incentives to get patients vaccinated. Here, look, October 2021. This is a form from Kentucky-based provider outlining Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield's, quote, vaccine provider incentive program. The document showed doctors could make thousands of dollars in bonus compensations. This is their document from vaccinating their patients during the pandemic. So they knew there were negative health effects. They knew it didn't stop the spread. They hid it and told you that you could be an asymptomatic carrier and could kill grandma unknowingly to persuade you to try to get it, and then tried to force it into you by having you fired from your job, kept out of restaurants, ostracized from society, kept from traveling, and even entertainment events. And now they're forced to update their warning label with heart inflammation. Not to mention new research on potentially long-term autoimmune issues that many vaccinated patients appear to be experiencing now, and one person even testified to that in that Senate hearing. I mean, who can you sue? What recourse do you have? If you have that in your system, which we now know the spike proteins that embed in your system for years, who's responsible? No one. Employers are immunized from prosecution because most of them were just following the law, or they hide behind the rights of private employers that they can basically fire anybody they want for any reason. The legislatures just say, well, we were just acting in the best interest of the public. Oh, we were acting on the best information we had at the time, which turns out they weren't. And it's virtually impossible to sue the government anyway. And the vaccine manufacturers, who made billions off this, enjoy pretty much infinite immunity from it. So you're on your own with your myocarditis, maybe, which, by the way, some insurance carriers can consider a pre-existing condition and limit your care for it, unless you can prove that it came from the vaccine, which, ironically, anyone who studied that for the last 4 years was in jeopardy of losing their medical license, so good luck finding the data for that right now. So now, some people are suing for being fired for not getting the vaccine, which I happen to know a lot of them. But what about the class action lawsuit for all the people who got it because they needed to put food on their table, who couldn't afford to lose their job? You're out of luck. And potentially the biggest I told you so to date. Totally justified, though. The conspiracy theorists like me will right again. Innocent people trying to keep their jobs, ride the subway, or God forbid go out to eat are the victims of non-scientific mandates with no recourse. Also, nobody's going to jail for it. In fact, the auto pen pardoned Fauci for any potential crimes that he swore he never committed. All the while, 40 new people became billionaires from COVID. But you know what gets me out of this whole thing? The fundamental method for advancements in innovation and science throughout history, in order to advance, has been to challenge conventional logic and science. I mean, if we didn't do that, we'd still be putting leeches on ourselves to treat the common cold. But during COVID, for the first time in modern medical history, that logic didn't apply. And now we know why.
And now we know why. Now, I've been wanting to report on this. I've been watching these Senate hearings and the hundreds of doctors that are coming forward and the studies. And not just doctors in the States. There's hundreds through documents and willingness to appear if called upon from doctors and scientists from around the world who have been trying to get their voices out about the damages of this and the farcity that it really was. Now, not to say that it wasn't bad, it was. It hit certain people very hard. Those are the people who we should have been looking after, which most people like myself were saying right from the beginning because we're nerds. I was reading the scientific documents on them. I was reading all of the studies. I was searching for the information. I am a health nut. I've got bad habits, yes, but I am a health nut. I try to grow all my own food. We don't do any chemicals, even our soaps and stuff, no sulfides, etc., etc. And this is a concern to anybody who really cares about their health. So I'm glad that this is finally coming out. If you do get a chance to tune into some of this Senate, it's been going on for 2 months now, just a little bit over 2 months, on and off. What they're finally starting to bring out is just jaw-dropping. And it goes right down to fertility rates, and like there's a pile of stuff that's tied into this whole, you know, this is Trudeau science, right? This is what people who are idiots. This is another thing that I say when it comes to the whole carbon tax. They're not trying to protect the environment if they're putting a tax on the gas of life. There are hundreds of other types of emissions that are way more deadly and toxic that aren't even being mentioned. And if you take a look at one of my earlier episodes, how I exposed what we know about dams are one of the worst ecological, environmental, disastrous things a country or people can do and to build. And nobody's talking about this because it's science. They don't want you to know the real science, and that's why I'm here. Sorry, just the facts. Now, if you get the heebie-jeebies, my last story could make your skin crawl. But it is that type of season. They're out where I live all the time. And yeah, you may want to turn away, but here it is.
A warning tonight about ticks at a provincial park in central Alberta. A camper says after a hike, she found dozens of ticks on herself, her husband, and their 2 dogs. CTV's Nicole Weisberg reports.
It started with a tranquil hike in Gooseberry Lake Provincial Park for an Alberta couple discovering a new part of the province.
The place is absolutely beautiful, really nice landscape there.
After a peaceful night camping, they decided to try and get a little closer to the lake. Jerry Kunika says the water was low, so they briefly ventured off the path, then returned to their campsite.
Winding down and relaxing a little bit, and then after a few minutes, he said to me, I think I feel something in my hair. Is there something in my hair? And as I got closer to him, he looked at me and he says, oh my, you've got something stuck on your cheek. I think it's a tick.
It was in fact a tick, she says, and there was one in her husband's hair. They then started searching their dogs and found many, including some on the furniture where they were just sitting.
Between the 2 of us and the 2 dogs, we caught at least 30. You just feel violated. It's a very strange feeling because you don't hear them, you don't feel them on your skin.
Alberta's tick population is on the rise, according to this tick researcher, with a different kind of tick moving in from Saskatchewan.
That means that we're going to have an extended season for the tick. It extends that period until about mid-July.
And entomologist Janet Sperling says ticks are showing up in new places. The Lyme-carrying black-legged tick is still rare, but does show up from time to time, she says, even here in Edmonton.
For me, for sure, I go walking in the river valley. If I'm staying to the path, I do a tick check when I get home.
Kunika would like to see signage posted in hot spots. The province says it reminds campers how to be safe and check for ticks and includes messaging in educational programming. Nicole Weisberg, CTV News.
I got a kick out of this. Now, if you're from Canada and you're, like go out in the bush, in the trees, cut your own grass, like, Canadian, you don't live in, the glass jungle and you actually get out, you're used to this. So I got a real kick out of this, especially because she's like, I felt violated. I'm sorry. Welcome to Canada. Where are you going to post signs? Hotspots? Really? Like, what? How do you expect tax dollars to go out there and walk through the bushes and every kilometer stop do a tick check on them, when if they would have been 5 feet over in their same walk, they could have hit a nest and ended up with like 100 on them? Get real. I mean, ticks are a fact, like they're a fact of life. Get over it. It's called nature. Get over it. And this is like the whole media. They try to put the spin, this whole scare. Like if you get a tick bite, you're gonna. It's the end of your life. It's all over. You're gonna get like Lyme disease and blah blah. Fear. They keep spreading fear. How about just inform people like what to do and hygiene. When you're out walking in the bush and you're done, don't lay around in your dirty, grubby clothes, especially if it's tick season. I don't know. Let me know how you feel in the comments, but. I know some people get the heebie-jeebies, especially there are areas where they're not likely to come across them. But for the most part, you're in Canada, you're going to go out and tour nature and, not be on the path. I'm sorry, the path. Yeah, you're going to get ticks. You're going to get ticks. It's tick season. We plan for it every year. Some years are really bad. Some years aren't so bad. And if you're on an acreage, I'll tell you right now, the answer to cleaning up your yard with ticks, and I'm not saying they'll eat 100% of them, but get yourself some guinea fowl. They are tick-eating machines. Now, I'm going to give you a short story on this. So I had a buddy tell me about this years ago, and he did a test. So he went out and he got some guineas, and he put them in his yard, and he watched these guineas. And they first started going about 20 feet around in a circle, and then about 80 feet around in a circle, and slowly they ended up going all the way. And next thing you know, and he had a small acreage. He only had like an acre and a half, maybe 2 acres. Next thing you know, they were going over into the neighbor's yard, so he was concerned. He went over and talked to the neighbors. Neighbors like, oh no, they're good. They're just an ugly chicken, They're no harm. And then he realized to himself one day that when he was visiting the neighbors was like, oh, the ticks are so bad this year and everything. And he's like, actually, I haven't had a tick on me for a couple weeks. Maybe these guineas are working. So they just kept letting these, and one neighbor lived fairly close. His house was fairly close, and the next thing you know, that family, they weren't finding any ticks on them, their kids or their dogs anymore. But the ones that were further out where the birds didn't. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna try this, see if it works. So I went out and I got myself a nice little flock of them, because I've got a big chunk of land. Especially where all of my outbuildings are, in my greenhouse, my garden. I use up a fair amount of my yard, and we let these guineas go, man. And I watched them daily. My wife watched them, and it was amazing. And I could be working in one area, and as time progressed, every day I'm pulling ticks off me. Every day I'd stop 2-3 times through the day and strip right down and clean all the ticks off. And pretty soon those guineas were now near my workshop area, and within days, they ended up going past my workshop area, and then as their diameter got larger, they slowed down the progression because they were covering more ground, right? Because the circle's getting larger, there's a lot more square footage on that and the circumference. So Gone. The ticks were gone. There were none. And then we got this wicked wind for like, man, it must have been a week. 3 days of seriously heavy wind, and a week and a couple more days of intermittent heavy blowing, gusting wind. And I noticed all of the birds had kind of got right back to where they were at the barn and slowly started going out again. And lo and behold, I started getting ticks on me again when I was outside of their new little perimeter. So the wind had blown in and moved some of them back into the area again and disrupted, but it didn't take them long. It's not like the wind completely infiltrated our area. It blew enough over that they didn't have to go so far to feed. And those guinea hens, that's like their favorite food. They hunt them out, and when they find a little nest, man, they make noise, they jump up and down and call the others. It is a feast. So if you have an acreage, find somebody who's got guinea hens. Get yourself some guinea hens. I will not have this farm without a guinea ever again. For the rest of my life, it doesn't matter where I go, I am going to have guineas. Not only are their eggs great, the meat's fabulous. They're an amazing, like if any predators come around, they let you know. They let off a nasty barking pitch. They'll get up a tree and they watch everything. If a car's there for a month and you move that car over a foot, for 3 days they walk around that car and they squeak at that car because that car is not supposed to be right. But if you're using a vehicle every day, they don't mind because that's normal. It's things that are out of the normal. These are an amazing species of fowl. So yeah, if you got tick issues, get yourself guinea. Guinea fowl are wicked. We call them guinea hens. They're amazing, and they're wicked because they're Jurassic looking, man. They're butt ugly. I'm capital B double T butt ugly, but they do the trick. Amazing, truly amazing bird. Anyways, you guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Check out my merch. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you are, punch that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Until next time. You've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm Alias the Guy. Stay informed.